This episode is really important to me. It talks about something that a lot of people don't realize and understand. And I want to start with a question that I want you to answer as honestly as possible. Even if the answer scares you a little. Have you ever known something was hurting you, but still felt pulled toward it? Have you ever said, I don't understand why I missed them? Or if it was really abuse, why does leaving feel harder than staying? And if you've ever asked yourself those questions, this episode might be for you. Because today we're talking about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention. Trauma bonding. Not weakness, not stupidity, certainly not bad choices. Trauma bonding is what happens when your nervous system confuses survival with love. And once you understand it, really understand it, the shame starts to loosen its grip. This is Walk With Me. My people, what is trauma bonding and how does it show up? Trauma bonding happens when intense emotional pain is mixed with moments of relief, affection, or connection, especially in relationships where power, fear, or control are present. It often forms in relationships that include emotional and psychological abuse. We spoke a little bit about that in one of the first episodes. Sexual coercion or assault, intermittent affection, what professionals call good days, followed by bad ones. There is apologies without real change, and fear of abandonment mixed with hope. And here's the key part most people don't understand. The bond doesn't form despite the abuse. It forms because of it. I know that's really difficult to grasp right now, but we'll get into it so that you can understand it more. Because according to trauma psychologists, trauma bonds, they're fueled. They're formed by intermittent reinforcement, so unpredictable kindness after pain, manipulative, right? To a lot of people view it that way. And that is exactly what it is. It's produced by stressed hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Dopamine spikes when relief or affection returns. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, even after harm. Your brain starts to associate relief with connection. So when the abuse stops temporarily, your nervous system doesn't say that was dangerous. It says, thank heavens, I didn't lose them. That's not love. It's survival. So when I look back at my own life and what I saw growing up, I didn't learn that love was safe. I learned that love was loud, unpredictable, conditional. So when things were calm, it felt suspicious. And when things were intense, that was familiar to me. That familiarity, it's somewhat seductive. And if you grew up around chaos, your nervous system doesn't crave peace. It craves what it knows. And that's how trauma bonds sneak in. It's incredibly easy. Listen to me. Incredibly easy for people who have not experienced this kind of abuse, and for people who have, like a child, like me, to look at other survivors and ask, why didn't you leave sooner? I bullshit you not. I used to ask that question too when I became an adult. Why didn't my mom leave sooner? And why did I believe this was normal at the time? But what I've learned through time, through experiences, and through listening to other survivors is this. That decision is deeply personal, and it is never as simple as it looks from the outside, sometimes from the inside. Hindsight, of course, but nevertheless, leaving isn't just walking out the door. It's having to untangle fear, love, hope, finances, safety, children. Okay? And not to mention the shame, trauma, and the very real risk of retaliation. This is all jumbled up into one decision that some people feel should be made right then and there, on a dime. Shouldn't think much harder about it. So when we rush to judgment, when we ask why, instead of how can I help, what can I do, we don't just misunderstand survivors. We actually make it harder for them to fucking leave at all. Here's what the research and lived experiences tells us. The likelihood, listen to this, the likelihood of a survivor separating from abuse increases dramatically when they are met with support instead of judgment, belief instead of skepticism, and safety instead of pressure. Support saves lives. Judgment keeps people trapped. So the next time you feel that instinct to blame, to question, to analyze someone's choices, like I've done in the past, pause and ask yourself whether or not you are making this person feel safer or even more. Because survivors don't need to be pushed. They need to be fucking believed. They need to be fucking supported. And they need to know that when they're ready, at their pace, someone will be there to walk with them. Now, some of us are thinking, because we've had the examples of, we don't want the next time this happens to be the last time you do anything. Because abuse is absolutely deadly. That's why instinctively some of us are like, you gotta get out right now. I get that. And I understand that. And I feel that. And I want to say that as well. But we have to understand that the pace will quicken on them putting themselves in a safer situation if we simply understand. There are situations, guys, where we feel like it is now or never. And we have to involve authorities when it comes to situations like that. But we also have to know when it is time to tell somebody you are simply just there for them, that you simply want to be a safe place for them. And we have to let them know that there is no judgment, that we are there as a safe space. And we have to be there as much as possible to help that pace move along quicker. So I understand both sides of it. I understand that we have to step in sometimes and give them that, I don't want to use the word ultimatum, but it's now or never. We're worried about you. But that's part of you showing them that, number one, you believe them. And number two, you're worried about them. And number three, they have a safe place with you. And that is important. We will get into that safety aspect of it, but please understand that this is for you to know that we can't necessarily judge them. We have to give them the truth, but we have to make them feel like the other option is safer because they're believed. And that is important. Okay? So here's the science. Here's some plain language, no jargon. When researchers talk about trauma bonding, they often compare it to addiction. And I want to be really clear about what that means, because people hear that word and think it's an insult. It's not. You're not addicted to the person. Your body becomes addicted to that cycle. Here's what that cycle looks like in real life. Pain, right? Fear, tension, walking on eggshells, then an apology, a moment of relief, connection, hope, and then it fucking starts all over again. That relief phase, that's the hook. When the pain stops, even temporarily, your nervous system floods you with chemicals that say, okay, we're safe again. Dopamine, oxytocin, relief, calm, attachment. So your brain doesn't register the relationship as danger. It registers it as unpredictable safety. And unpredictability is a powerful tool in trauma bonding. It trains your brain to wait for the next good moment, that next apology, that next euphoric thought of hope, the next version of them that feels loving again. That's why people stay, saying things like, maybe this time it'll be different. We've all heard that. Or they're trying. They weren't always like this. I just need to be better at explaining things. That maybe becomes a survival strategy. Not because you're naive, not because you're weak, but because your brain learned that endurance sometimes leads to relief. Trauma bonds don't form because someone is stupid, y'all. They form because someone is a human fucking being. And that is information that helps you better understand when you are speaking or witnessing somebody in that situation. So why does just leave not work? And this is where society gets it wrong and where it can do some real harm. When people say things like, why didn't you just leave? If it was that bad, you would have gone. You must have wanted it. I would never put up with that. What they're actually doing is ignoring biology. Okay, leaving a trauma bond doesn't feel like freedom at first. This is the scary shit. It feels like withdrawal. Okay? For many survivors, leaving can trigger things like panic attacks or grief, crushing grief, intense fear of the unknown, emotional numbness, physical symptoms like nausea, shaking, headaches, insomnia, a deep, hollow loneliness that doesn't make sense on the surface. This isn't your body saying, go back because this is healthy. Listen up. This is your body saying, this is what I learned how to survive inside of. This ecosystem is where I'm comfortable, where I learned how to survive. For some people, leaving feels like losing oxygen, if you can believe that. Not because the relationship was good, they fucking know, but because their nervous system adapted to danger as normality. It's normal. So when you remove the chaos, the body doesn't immediately relax. It panics. That's why telling someone to just leave can feel like telling them to jump into deep water. Into deep water when they've only ever learned how to breathe in smoke. Man, that's fucked up, isn't it? They're not staying because they don't want safety. That's all they want. They're staying because safety feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels dangerous. Even more dangerous than what the situation they are in. even more dangerous than in an abusive relationship. And here's the part I want to land super clearly. Fear doesn't mean it's impossible. It means your body needs support while it relearns what safe actually feels like. That's what we're going to talk about next. Not just breaking the bond, but how to survive the breaking of it. Because healing isn't about ripping someone away from what they know. It's about slowly and steadily teaching the nervous system that a different life is possible. Because it is. So how do professionals say we begin breaking trauma bonds? This part matters. So we're going to slow down here, okay? Because breaking a trauma bond isn't about willpower. It's about retraining a nervous system that learned how to survive in chaos. So we do the first thing, number one thing, without judgment, we name the bond. The first step isn't leaving. Believe it or not, it's understanding. A lot of survivors walk around saying, I'm weak. I should know better. What's wrong with me? Professionals will tell you the moment you say, this is trauma bonding, instead of I'm broken, something starts to shift. It's amazing what language can do. It's amazing how what you say can start something inside of you. Naming something as powerful as trauma bonding gives it language. It gives you language. And language, my friends, gives you power. When you understand that your attachment formed under fear, unpredictability, emotional whiplash, you've stopped moralizing your survival. You stop asking, why did I stay? And start using language like, what did my body learn to do to survive? This step isn't about labels for the sake of labels. It's language. It's about removing shame, because shame keeps people stuck. Understanding opens doors. Okay? So what does this feel like in real life? You're lying in bed at night, replaying everything, thinking, why do I still miss them after everything they did? And for the first time, instead of calling yourself weak or stupid, you think or say, oh, my body bonded to this type of survival. This isn't a character flaw. It's trauma. This is what trauma does. That moment doesn't magically fix shit, okay? It softens the shame. And when we start softening the shame, when shame loosens its grip, change becomes possible. Okay, number 2, we're going to stabilize the nervous system first. Most professionals agree on this part, and this is important. You cannot logic your way out of a trauma bond. You have to regulate your way out. That means before you make big decisions, before you analyze the relationship to fucking death, before you ask yourself, what should I do? You focus on safety in your body. That can look like breath work, slow, intentional breathing that tells your nervous system we're not in danger at this moment. Somatic therapy, that's body-based therapy that helps release stored trauma, not just talk about it. There's grounding exercises you can do, noticing your feet on the floor, naming what you can see, touch, orienting to the present moment. Cold water on the wrist or face. I know it sounds so simple, but it's a way to interrupt panic and bring your body back online. Movement. Fuck, this one is important, guys. Walking, stretching, gentle exercise that reminds your body it can move forward. Trauma-informed therapy, of course. Support from someone who understands how trauma actually works. The goal here is not clarity yet, okay? It's not answers. It's safety. Teaching yourself safety, okay? Because a dysregulated nervous system will always pull you back to what is familiar, even if it's harmful. So what does this look like in real life? You see their name pop up on your phone and your chest tightens. Your heart races. Your brain begins bargaining, okay? Instead of responding, you put your feet on the floor. You take some slow breaths. You splash cold water on your wrist or your face, and you step outside for a short walk. Nothing has changed externally, but internally, the panic drops from a 9 to a 6. That's a fucking win. And that's enough for now. Because you don't need clarity in that moment. You need to regulate. You need regulation. I hope that makes sense. Number 3, we're going to create distance emotionally and physically. This is where it gets hard. And also, where real healing often begins. Distant doesn't always mean forever. It means enough space for your nervous system to reset. Without space, the bond stays activated. Professionals often recommend some form of distance when it is safe to do so, such as no contact or low contact, blocking or muting social media, removing reminders, text, photos, or constant triggers, asking a trusted person to help you stay accountable when the urge to reach out hits, because it will. And I want to say this clearly. Distance is not punishment. Distance is medicine. You're not doing this to hurt the other person. You're doing this to give your body a chance to remember what calm feels like. So, this feels like you blocking them on social media, even though part of you feels cruel for doing it. Believe it or not, of course. You delete old messages. Like the ones that you keep rereading over and over again. You ask a friend, someone very close to you, to sit with you during the hours you're most tempted to reach out. It feels so uncomfortable. It feels lonely. And worst of all, a lot of times it feels terrifying. But slowly, because this is a process, you start noticing something extremely strange. Your body starts to settle in ways it never could while the bond was active. And that is the beginning, okay? Number 4, we're going to replace the bond with safe connection. Here's the part many people miss. You don't just break a trauma bond. You replace it, okay? This is just like habits, okay? You replace it. Humans are wired for connection. If you take one away without offering another, your body will panic. Been there. Professionals emphasize the importance of building safe, consistent connection, such as supportive friendships or group therapy, survivor support groups. Those can be so useful. There's trauma-informed counseling, which always. There's community spaces where you feel seen without being controlled. In this day and age, community spaces exist, and they're not super difficult to find. And then we're going to work on predictable, calm interactions that don't come with emotional whiplash. Your nervous system needs proof that connection doesn't have to hurt, or it's going to assume it does. Not intense connection, not dramatic connection, safe connection. Okay? Over time, that's what rewires the bond. And this looks like you sitting with a friend or therapist or both and realize you can disagree without being punished. You share something vulnerable and no one uses it against you later. You laugh genuinely. Guys, you laugh genuinely without wondering when the turn. It doesn't feel as intense as the trauma bond. And at first, it might even feel boring. But over time, your body learns connection doesn't have to hurt to be real. It doesn't have to be intense to be real. It can just exist. It can just be chill. And that's so awesome, guys. I love that. All right, number 5, expect grief, even if you were hurt. This part surprises people. Surprised me, because we think if they hurt me, why do I miss them? If this was abuse, why does it feel like I've lost something? And professionals are very, very clear about this. Grief does not mean you made the wrong choice. It means you hoped. You attached. You gave a damn. You cared. You imagined a future that just didn't happen. You can grieve someone who harmed you and still leave. You can miss what you wanted them to be without returning to who they actually were. Both can be true. Grief isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of humanity. And it passes like all other grief, especially when it's supported, named, and not judged. You can miss the version of them that showed up in the beginning. You can mourn the future you thought you were building. You cry, not because you want the abuse back. Don't believe that. It's because you wanted love, safety, and consistency, and never got it. That grief doesn't mean you failed. That grief reminds us that we are human. And it passes more gently when you stop judging yourself for having it. Why do I hurt? Oh, yeah, I am a fucking human being. Who knew? Okay, number 6. If unsafe, you need to shift to safety planning. We talked a little about this in the beginning because we wanted people around us to not judge us and go, why didn't you leave earlier? Why don't you leave right now? It's a process, right? But when you realize that setting boundaries makes things worse, not better, your partner escalates, threatens, monitors you, or punishes you, and instead of pushing yourself to be stronger, you choose safety. You call a hotline. You make a quiet plan. You identify one person who knows what's really going on. And you remind yourself, protecting yourself is not selfish. It's necessary. And the time is now. Okay, so this conversation about bonding is eye-opening for me because I was on both sides of it. I was in an abusive household growing up as a child. I was abused, but I thought it was normal. Years later, after realizing it wasn't normal, after wanting a different life for myself, I started to ask questions like, why didn't my mom leave earlier? Why did she stay for so long? And this was important information for me to learn. So I hope you got something out of this because I think it's a really important conversation. I think it's a really important topic that we need to understand a little bit better. This week, the challenge/insight, I want you to take this seriously. This week, notice when your body misses someone who hurt you. Not your thoughts, your body. And when it happens, I want you to pause, place your hand on your chest, say out loud or internally, This is my nervous system seeking familiarity, not my heart seeking harm. Then write down what you're actually craving. Safety, reassurance, connection, consistency. That's the need you deserve met, without any pain attached. And if you feel ready, share that reflection with me. Anonymous is okay. Messy is definitely okay. Honest is enough. Because your insight might help someone else stop blaming themselves. Because they sure get that enough from the outside. Okay? All right. Our fashion tie-in this week is pretty cool. Fashion as identity after trauma bonding. The psychology of reclaiming yourself. There's something researchers and trauma therapists talk about that doesn't always make headlines, but it matters. After trauma bonding, survivors often struggle with identity loss. Not just who they were with, but who they were allowed to be. And one of the first places that loss shows up, what we wear. Studies in trauma psychology show that after controlling or coercive relationships, survivors often report dressing to avoid attention, wearing clothes chosen to keep someone else calm, hiding their body, their confidence, their voice, feeling disconnected from their reflection. Many psychologists call this identity suppression. When someone controls your body, emotionally, sexually, psychologically, your clothing stops being expression and it becomes protection. So when healing begins, something subtle but powerful happens. A survivor puts something on, maybe a color they love, a fit that feels bold, a silhouette that feels them, and they feel this spark. Oh, I'm still here. That moment matters. Guys, it matters so much. Because reclaiming style after trauma bonding isn't about vanity. It's about autonomy returning to the body. You're going to hear me say that a lot. That's why fashion belongs in this conversation. Healing from trauma bonding doesn't just happen in the mind. Sometimes it starts in the mirror when you finally recognize yourself again. All right, my people, if you take nothing else from this today, please take this. Leaving doesn't feel hard because you're weak. It feels hard because your body learned to survive where it shouldn't have had to. Doesn't mean you're broken. It means you adapted. And adaptation can be unlearned. Healing from trauma bonding isn't fast. It isn't linear, but it's so possible. And I know that each and every one of you listening to this who believes they've had or have trauma bonding can do this. They can heal from this. You don't, fortunately, have to do it alone. And you don't have to figure it all out at once. One regulated breath, one honest reflection, one safe connection at a time. Until then, please take care of yourself, and I'll see you on the path. Thank you so much for walking with me today. If this episode resonated with you, visit the website at walkwithmepod.com. You'll find resources and links to support organizations that may be helpful to you or someone you care about. You can also connect with me on social media. All the links are on the show notes and our website. And if you feel compelled, reach out. Your reflections, questions, and stories are always welcome. And some may be shared in future follow-up episodes with your permission, of course. If you believe in what we're building here, please take a moment and rate and review the podcast. It helps the message reach more people who may need it. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, consider sharing this episode with them. That's how this walk continues. Until then, take care of yourself, and I'll see you on the path. Psst, this part is super important, my friends. I want to be very clear about something. I am not a licensed therapist, a counselor, a psychologist, or a medical professional. The content shared on Walk With Me is based on personal experience, research, education, and lived perspective, not professional or clinical advice. This podcast is intended for educational, reflective, and community-based conversation only. It is not a substitute for professional mental health care, medical treatment, legal advice, or crisis intervention. If you are in immediate danger, experiencing a crisis, or need professional support, please contact emergency services or a licensed mental health professional or a trusted support organization right away. Resources and hotlines are listed in the show notes and on walkwithmepod.com. Listening to or participating in this podcast does not establish my therapeutic, professional, or client relationship between you and I. My goal here is to open conversations, challenge harmful patterns, and offer insight and hope. But your safety, healing, and care deserve qualified, professional support when needed. Please take care of yourself and seek help when it's appropriate.